So here's a strange thing about infinities. If something is infinite, it's actually the same size as its proper parts in some cases. For example, take the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's as many of those as there are even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And you can prove this because you can map them onto each other, one to one, in what's called a bijection. You'll never run out of either. There's just as many, even though the even numbers are a proper subset of the regular counting numbers. That does not hold with finite quantities or wholes. So for example, if you take a car or a human being, proper part is the wheels or the arms. You're never going to have arms that are the same size as a human, no matter how swole you get, or wheels that are the same size as the car. So this is a really distinctive feature of infinities. Now in the 1920s, David Hilbert, the mathematician, gave a lecture, which was later published as a paper, Über das Unendliche, about the nature of these infinities, and he gave the following thought experiment. So imagine you have an infinite hotel, infinitely many rooms, and infinitely many guests. And suppose that someone new shows up. What do? All your rooms are full. Well, the simple solution is that you just bump everyone down a room, right? So the person in room number 1 goes into room number 2, room number 2 goes into room number 3, and voila, you have a spare room. In fact, if you really never wanted to face this predicament in the first place, hearkening back to our example with the even numbers, you could just put all your infinite guests in the even numbered rooms. And then when new guests start rolling in, you just start filling up the odd rooms, but you're never going to actually get a full hotel. You're never going to run out of rooms. The reason that Hilbert gives this example is because he wants us to think about infinities in this way that's kind of not natural for our other thinking about wholes and their parts. Now, curiously, I found an example of this in a medieval manuscript from the 1100s at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. The question is God's acquiring new knowledge as new things happen? Is this somehow going to change the overall quantity of God's knowledge? And the anonymous author of this 12th century text gets very worried about this question, but then ultimately says it's okay because God's knowledge is infinite. So when God learns new things, as new things come about, as new things happen in the world, it doesn't change the overall quantity of God's knowledge. Of course, there's a major difference between God's knowledge and occupants of a hotel, but the background reasoning is very similar. So what do you think? Is this way of thinking about infinities natural or kind of counterintuitive? Is it something kind of paradoxical, or does it come easy and just seem like the most normal thing? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. This video is brought to you by the FWO. For details, see the description.